Reto is a strong yet boring loser who fumbles his crush harder than Sakura fumbled Naruto. However, when an alien species attacks the Earth to wipe out humanity, he suddenly becomes the strongest hero and gains the power of turning shotties into superhumans by giving them back shots. It all starts when Kiara asks Reto if he knows how to hold hands like a grown-up, but when he says he's a sad virgin like the viewers, she shows him how to do it. Reto immediately gets flustered because he's never touched a woman before, and Kiara finds how nervous he's become amusing. Just then, some alien creature shows up at the scene, and what happens changes their lives forever. 5 years later, Reto is in school when his friend Da-Te asks what he thinks of the uproar about the aliens that keep popping up on their planet. In reality, they're talking about busty magazine chicks, which is making everyone uncomfortable. Just then, Kiara gets upset and tears up the magazine, and Reto notes how she's become a germaphobe for boys over the years. As she gets seated, Da-Te comments that even though she and Reto are childhood friends, there is no chance she's gonna let him into her chamber of secrets. The girls recall how she used to play with boys some years ago, and wonder if Reto flashed his joystick and turned her into a boy hater. After class, a fellow girl asks Kiara to carry notebooks to the staff room, but she stands there awkwardly because she doesn't want to touch the boys' notebooks. In passing, Reto notes her distress and offers to help, but Kiara gives him the cold shoulder, telling him to do whatever he wants. As she carries the girls' notebooks, she tells him to stay at least a meter away from her. As they walk to the staff room, he tells her not to worry about what others say because he'd still tap even if she's changed. However, Kiara gets upset and tells him she hasn't changed at all, and that he has no right to talk to her just because they used to be friends. As she tries to exit dramatically, she trips on the stairs and Reto immediately grabs her, more specifically her melons. After a moment of embarrassment, Reto apologizes, saying he couldn't resist squeezing her stress balls, but Kiara runs off in distress. Later, as Reto walks back home, he hears about the sudden appearance of a superhuman in Toma. The news anchor explains how these aliens called Kisishu have been attacking humans for the past 5 years. Their goal is to eradicate human desires by draining their H energy so they stop clapping and die a slow death. Elsewhere, some Discord mods are drooling over an idol in a concert when one Kisishu shows up and decides to have some fun. She uses some magic to deploy the idol's airbags, causing her to run off in embarrassment. She then starts draining the H energy of everyone in the crowd, causing the crowd to leave and the idol to quit singing for a real job. Just then, Reto walks up to the Kisishu and recalls that day when Kiara jumped to his rescue. Fueled with anger, he charges up the Walmart Omnitrix on his fist.
Oxyno's changed forever, and it's all because of you!
But the aura of his magic ends up disintegrating his outfit. Later, he meets up with his uncle Anno, the creator of the Sora gear, to recharge the watch, and complains about how his clothes are destroyed every time he uses the gear. He wants Anno to come up with an alternative, but he says Reto will have to live with it for now. Reto asks him why he doesn't use the watch himself, and Anno says it's because it uses the desire to have some kitty as its fuel, and his age of clapping shotties is behind him. He also reminds Reto of his purpose, and Reto recalls how he vowed to destroy all Kisishu because one of them stole Kiara's H energy and tanked his chances of getting that chick on his King Kong. The next day, he apologizes to Kiara, but she ignores him and goes on about her day. Refusing to give up, Reto continues to pester her, but she acts as if he doesn't exist at all. As he follows her home, he says she doesn't need to forgive him, but just listens to him for a second. Just as he talks about the day they were attacked, a Kisishu from earlier shows up again, and Kiara falls to her knees like your mom when she sees a BDC. Reto immediately shields her with his body and attacks the alien again, but his attack proves futile because he still hasn't recovered since yesterday. The Kisishu confidently says she's stronger due to the body she got from their queen and will devour the H energy of everyone in town. She vows to start with Kiara, but Reto throws a handkerchief in the Kisishu's face and drags Kiara to the spot they were in 5 years ago. As they catch their breath, Reto apologizes for holding her hand, but she asks him to hold it for a little longer. While they sit there blushing red, Kiara recalls the last time she held his hands, which was years ago. Because of that, she starts getting moist until her sprinkler malfunctions.
I can't hold back any longer. My locked heart is opened up wide.
Just then, Reto's watch starts to glow and both of them start floating up in the air. The Kisishu, now a giant, spots them in the park and vows to drain their energy. However, Reto and Kiara use the power of the gear together and obliterate it in a single attack. When the dust settles, they are left with nothing on their bodies, and Reto gets flustered seeing Kiara's jiggle physics in action. As they sit back to back, Reto apologizes for dragging her into this mess, which makes Kiara realize fighting Kissy Shu is a routine for him. She then recalls how the Kissy Shu absorbed her H energy all those years ago, but even after that she had plenty left, meaning she really wanted to spam jump on Reto's joystick. Soon enough, the Kissy Shu exploded because of Kiara's energy, which left the girl traumatized and embarrassed. After that day, she locked up her heart and desires, but holding Reto's hand has given her the push she needed to unlock her chains. She then offers to help him in his mission in exchange for keeping today a secret, but then goes back on her word and starts making a fuss. Just then, Reto's members Sora, Momo, and May show up in the park and notice Kiara with her melons on display. Momo quickly hands her another set of uniforms before the crowd gathers and hands her a key to the house, mistaking her for a member of the heroes' team. They explain that all members of the group live under the same roof, and Kiara is upset to learn that Reto has been living with chicks all this time. The next day, Reto dreams about touching Kiara's chug jugs, but suddenly wakes up because he needs to touch some grass instead. He finds the house dog Runba under the sheets with a piece of undergarment in its mouth. Just then, Momo barges into the room and demands her stuff back, only to get flustered upon seeing Reto. Assuming it was Reto's doing, she tells him to man up and make a move on her directly. As she slams the door shut, Sora wakes up and Reto is shocked to learn that she was sleeping with her all this time. She asks why he's here, so Reto explains it's his room and she must have sleepwalked here. Later, May serves him the morning tea and he calls her the only decent person in the house. She then tries to feed Runba, but some of the dog food drops between her milk packs, causing Runba to motorboat them like a mad dog. As Mai reaches a happy ending, she's utterly embarrassed, but Reto says he didn't see a thing. Leaving for school, he explains how this house serves as the base of operations for the team, and everyone except Kiara lives here. Later, he takes Kiara to Anno's office and he congratulates them for finding fresh meat. Kiara asks if it's really necessary to live together, and Anno says it's important in case of an emergency deployment. Seeing her complain, Momo starts pestering her until Kiara gets full and storms out of the room. They all turn to Reto hoping he'd convince her, and even when he initially declines, Momo begs him to do it in exchange for a sloppy toppy. Later, Reto contemplates if it's really worth having a dumb blonde on the team, but then hears a Kissy Shu nearby. The Kissy Shu notices a girl wearing a short skirt and uses its magic to make it howl. Just then, Reto quickly takes it out and disappears before she gets an eye full of his meat. The next day, Kiara brutally rejects a guy's advances, but gets flustered when Reto starts approaching her. As he gets seated, he recalls Kiara wanting to help his mission and wonders if there's more to her than meets the eye. Later, he meets Kiara outside, and she immediately warns him not to tell anyone about what happened at the park. Kiara promises he won't and then asks if she would like to join their team. But Kiara starts walking off, showing no interest. When he says it'll be too cruel to make her fight the cause of her trauma, she blushes for a moment but then turns around and sternly asks why he fights Kissy Shu. Reto says he blames those pesky aliens for ruining what they had, and many others have suffered the same way as him. He promises that he won't force her to join and talk it out with his squad, leaving Kiara to contemplate her feelings. She reminisces about the time she told Reto that a human heart beat nearly 3 billion times in a lifetime and placed his hand on her chest to make him feel the beat. However, the guy got cold feet, so she suggested hugging him instead and felt that their heartbeat was in sync. She admits she used to be a sussy baka back then, but convinces herself that she's now outgrown her desires. Just then, she sees some students running away from a monster and believes a Kissy Shu has shown up in school. Instead of running for her life, she runs in the opposite direction where a Kissy Shu has gotten hold of a student she rejected this morning. She goes through her mind and notes all the weird fantasies he has of Kiara, and the guy admits he just wanted to get to know her better first. However, Kiara rudely turned him down, stating that he is not worthy of it. When he acknowledges that he loves her, the Kissy Shu tells him to relax and let her remove all these feelings from his body. As Kiara watches from a distance, she recalls Reto telling her that these aliens have stolen emotions from a lot of humans and he'll never forgive them for it. Motivated, Kiara steps in and tells the Kissy Shu to deal with her first. The Kissy Shu is surprised because even though she's acting tough, her legs are trembling. As soon as she approaches Kiara, Reto suddenly appears and obliterates the alien, causing both their clothes to disintegrate. Just then, they hear a guard approaching and hide inside a car, and while Reto is calm and collected, Kiara has started to get a little moist. After the guard leaves, they put on some clothes, but Kiara's heart is still beating fast, thinking all the time she spent with Reto back then. In the end, she declares that she will be joining the superhero squad so she can get revenge on Kissy Shu, when in reality she just wants backshots from Reto. She asserts that she won't offer herself to accumulate the H energy unless it's really necessary. Just then, the wind blows her shirt up, revealing her cave of wonders, and she smacks Reto for peeping at it. Later, she apologizes to the guy she rejected earlier and arrives at the squad base where she receives a warm welcome from the girls. At night, Reto hits the bed to process everything and realizes that he will be living together with the girl that he loves. Just then, he hears a warning about a giant Kissy Shu in the area, and his futon opens up to a cave that leads to the bath. Kiara angrily leaves the bath and takes out her frustration in the halls, but her gear activates and coincidentally takes out the Kissy Shu mid-air, thus resolving the issue at hand. Later, the squad follows a Kissy Shu responsible for stealing undergarments, and it pushes Reto away with her pink farts. Momo interrupts and throws it out of the building right next to Kiara. She asks her to finish it off, but Kiara hesitates, which allows Kissy Shu to get away by stealing her underwear. Back home, Mei asks Kiara to go easy on herself, but Momo is frustrated because she hasn't been giving Reto sloppy toppies to increase her H energy. She suggests watching some family therapy videos to get herself going, but Kiara says only Daijin Discord mods watch these. Momo gets upset hearing this, and as Mei holds her back, Momo says their work, although seems silly, is important to rescue the human race. Later, she wonders why Kiara has no interest in getting clapped despite her enormous melons, and then recalls her school days when she used to score a perfect 100 in every subject. She was even good at sports, but all the boys picked her elder sister because she had bigger melons, which is why Kiara frustrates her. Just then, she sees an ad on TV telling women to apply soy milk to their bodies to get juicier, so she gets into the bath and pours it into her cups. In the evening, Reto returns from school and gets into the bath where he finds Momo, who's dizzying around like she had a few shots. She asks him to pull her out in hopes that his touch would work on her, and then asks why he prefers girls packing D-cups. She then accidentally spills what she was doing with soy milk in the tub and becomes conscious, but Reto pretends to play dumb so she can relax. Just then, his watch starts glowing, and as he exits the shower to hide the crime scene in his pants, Momo gets amused knowing she can still rizz up a guy even with a flat chest. She recalls the day she first saw Anno, and when he offered to recruit her, she thought he had mistaken her for her sister. However, when Anno assured her that he had come for her, she realized this might be the one thing she could do that her sister couldn't. At night, Kiara returns home and is immediately ambushed by Momo, who declares she has more appeal and will one day have bigger melons than her. The next day, Kiara is in the locker room where a girl named Yuna complains about her missing undergarments, saying she got them specially for her date. Just then, she spots the Kissy Shu from earlier and starts chasing it around the school in her swimsuit. The news spreads in seconds, and Reto immediately joins her, assuming she's accumulating H energy by being exposed in public. He then goes ahead and destroys the Kissy Shu, leaving flashing underwear in his hand. Just then, some girls and Yuna arrive and assume him to be the thief, but Kiara clears the misunderstanding and paints him as the hero. Yuna then thanks Kiara for saving her date, and Kiara asks her for advice in return. They head to a women's section of the store where they pick some sussy undergarments for Kiara, and the girls are happy she's finally thinking of getting her V-card swiped. After getting a pair for her, they leave the store to drop off Yuna with her date, who turns out to be a girl. At night, while the whole squad is sound asleep, Kiara walks into Reto's room and shows him the stuff she got. She then gets into his futon and tells him not to get any weird ideas because she's only doing this to increase her H energy. They both are taken back to the winters during which they slept while doing their homework. Reto was the first to wake up and decided to get revenge on her for the teasing by drawing on her face. However, he backed out in the end and was about to kiss her, but she suddenly woke up, leaving him embarrassed. Kiara asked what he was trying to do, and when he said he was going to draw on her face, she pushed him to do it while she was awake. However, Reto was too big of a wuss and ended up scribbling on his hand. At present, Kiara realizes they can never relive those moments when suddenly Reto starts playing with her stress balls. She lets him be at first, but when he unhooks the only thing stopping this video from getting demonetized, she turns around and sees that the real culprit is Sora, who sleepwalked into the bed once again. As she wakes up, She admits she must have walked in here after the bathroom, and Kiara panics realizing she was here all this time. She then asks Kiara why she's here, and Kiara lies that she walked by mistake as well. She then returns to her own room and laments over how she tried so hard and still came out virgin. In frustration, she throws up her pillow and punches it, accidentally exhausting all the H energy she has built up to this point and destroying her new undergarments in the process. The next day, Anna was delighted to learn that she was able to put a hole through 2 reinforced ceilings, and when Momo asks how she built up the H energy, she and Reto decide to keep it to themselves. Elsewhere, the Queen of Kisishu laments over facing constant resistance inside Toma and reminds them of their goal of slowly eradicating the human population. However, the superhero squad is proving to be a nuisance, so she sends her best Kisishu to put a stop to them. Meanwhile, Mei is stranded by a low-level Kisishu who's about to turn her into a fine dinner. When Mei refuses to cooperate, she burns her clothes with acid and decides to teach her a lesson. Just then, she wakes up in bed from the alarm and sees Runba licking her belly. She heads to the bathroom to dry her hair, but when Reto walks past her, she suddenly gets on edge. After getting ready, she heads to the school where her friend Chia notes that it must be Tuesday since she's wearing orange underwear, much to Mei's frustration. She then asks why she isn't wearing tights, and Mei says she forgot because she had a hectic morning. As Chia walks up, Mei describes her as the prince of their school. In calligraphy class, she outshines everyone with ease and then turns her attention to Mei, who gets a happy ending with a mere poke to her foot. During dance class, Chia once again outshines everyone, while Mei embarrasses herself once again. When she loses her balance and falls off, Chia immediately stops the performance and tends to her, causing her to feel even worse. During lunch, Chia comforts her by saying she definitely has 2 big talents, and she's talking about those honka-donkas on her chest. She then suggests Mei try her luck out in some clubs to find something she is good at. But she turns it down thinking she'll be a nuisance to the other members. Chia states that she's super kind and humble and then proceeds to honk her horns to tease her. Meanwhile, Reto corners a Kisishu in the corner of an alley. Just then, the alarm alerts the school of Kisishu's presence and Mei quickly runs off to face it. Seeing her watched, Kisishu recognizes her as a superhero and sticks her tentacles up her uncharted alley. Remembering her dream this morning, she tears the tentacle off only to realize that it's actually Reto who has been turned into one thanks to Kisishu's mysterious powers. This means all of her tentacles are actually people, possibly the students of this very school. As the Kisishu attacks her, Mei is unfazed and faces her head-on, sending her flying through a supersonic attack. Not only does this destroy her clothes, but also turns Reto back to human. And what follows is what your mom does to strangers when she's drunk. Just then, the other girls the Kisishu had absorbed turn back to humans, and Reto immediately runs for his life. Chia has been watching Mei from the window all this time and realizes she's finally found something she is good at. Later, as Mei walks home content, Kiara walks up to Reto and tells him to forget everything that happened yesterday, only to realize he's staring directly into her flat factory. Just then, Sora walks in, gets a hold of her melon, and quickly walks out, leaving them confused. Right after, Mei arrives with a smile and later explains to Kiara that Sora has grown a liking to her. She often draws stuff in her room but refuses to show anyone, but they're certain she'll open up if they spend more time together. Momo joins them and suggests they bond over soy milk, explaining that it helps them grow melons even though they're already ripe. Mei tries to snatch the box but ends up spilling it on her twin towers, causing Runba to run in for an early dinner. While Mei makes happy noises, Momo pulls out her phone to record her, leaving Kiara confused. Later, she finds a sussy art book on the floor and Sora immediately retrieves it. Kiara explains she didn't mean to pry and found it on the floor, complimenting Sora's artistic prowess. Sora starts blushing and says she's the only one who has seen her drawings, and the only way to make sure she keeps it a secret is to draw sussy pictures of her. Sora also explains that she accumulates H energy by making these drawings, and if the others find out about it, they will laugh at her. Kiara, being a weirdo herself, assures her that everyone has things they want to hide, and everyone will understand and respect her even if her secret goes out. She also promises not to tell anyone until she wants to, but Sora says the only way they will get equal is if she also shares an embarrassing side of her. She then makes her pose for one of her drawings, but since Kiara is covering herself with a towel, Sora demands that she let the wind carry her. In the end, Kiara agrees to deploy her airbags, which allows Sora to fulfill her fantasies. Just then, they hear the alarm go off and Reto immediately barges into their room, causing him to go face first into Sora's DLC. As the Kissy Shoe sends bugs to eat away at all the sussy magazines in a bookstore, the superhero squad arrives to put a stop to it. Sora gets angry because it's her favorite bookstore, and while Reto goes after the Kissy Shoe, she and Kiara stay behind to fight the bugs. Sora then reveals her Zero Gear, which lets her materialize whatever she wants. While Kiara tends to the receptionist, Sora uses her powers to destroy all the bugs, unaware that the receptionist is a Kissy Shoe in disguise. Later, Sora reunites with Reto and tells her that Kiara has been kidnapped. Meanwhile, the Kissy Shoe informs the Queen that a hostage has been procured, and they will torture her to extract more info on the superheroes. Meanwhile, Sora, Mai, Momo, and Reto are all ready to launch a rescue operation. Sora blames herself for getting carried away, but Reto assures her that none of them could have predicted this outcome. They are all looking forward to rescuing her, except for Momo, who thinks they might not stand a chance against Kissy Shoe in their current state. To increase their chances of success, they need to build up H energy, so Momo suggests something sussy to the girls in private. Despite initial hesitation, the girls reunite with Reto and hand him their crown jewels in hopes that it'll cause a crime scene in his pants. However, Reto says only Momo gets pleasure from getting seen, recalling the time she turned on the rainfall when he was peeping from the door. Not wanting to embarrass the other girls, he tells them to just call his name whenever they need him. Later, the squad takes a crowded bus to Kiara's location where they're all crushed against the bus wall. Meanwhile, the night falls and Kiara asks a human why she's working with the Kissy Shoe, only to learn that Kissy Shoe has the power to transform. She explains that some of their kind have slipped into the human world to destroy them from within, but even when Kiara knows about it, she won't live to tell anyone else. After she leaves, Kiara decides to escape and tells the guard Kissy Shoe that she's getting hot and bothered because she's been holding her pee. The Kissy Shoe frees her so she can do her business, but Kiara smacks her face with a rock and knocks her out. As she wanders into the halls, the hero squad arrives at her location and their H energies are all charged up thanks to the bus ride. On the other hand, Kiara runs into a human-like Kissy Shoe who introduces herself as Chacha, the Queen's firstborn. She is a princess, but also among those shunned ones who are cast away from the rest. She also reveals that the Kissy Shoe that have mutations and look different from the normal ones are often locked away for their entire lives, which makes Kiara feel bad. Chacha is a free spirit who wants to explore the planet, so she requests Kiara to set her free. Turns out, she's been watching humans on TV and finds their society fascinating, which is why she wants to stop the others from eradicating the human population. Seeing the determination and honesty in her eyes, Kiara agrees to team up with her so they both can escape. Meanwhile, the hero squad shows up at the cave entrance and hops in with the intention of causing havoc. Inside, the Kissy Shoe from earlier complains about getting knocked out by a human when the superhero squad shows up. As Reto marches head-on, the girls stay behind to distract the enemies, all determined to rescue their friend. On the other hand, Chacha learns that the heroes gain power from H energy, so she uses her mutated powers to release pheromones that make humans want to get clapped. Suddenly, Kiara's body starts to heat up, but she fails to recharge her gear for some reason. Before they can get to the cause, they are distracted by the Kissy Shoe in the halls, who are mobilizing to fight against the heroes. Kiara quickly realizes that her friends have come to rescue her and happily tells Chacha that they will be out of here soon. However, a Kissy Shoe walks in on them and starts strangling Kiara, which causes an argument between her and Chacha. The Kissy Shoe reminds her that she's a waste of space much like y'all, and the only reason she's alive is because she's the Queen's firstborn. As Chacha falls into an identity crisis, Kissy Shoe takes Kiara out of the room, but she promises to come back for her. As Reto arrives at their ship, she threatens to game end Kiara if he takes another step toward them. Just then, more Kissy Shoes surround Reto, and he's forced to expose the secret of their power to save Kiara's life. Turning off his watch, he demands they let Kiara go, but Kiara asks him why he's letting them go so easily. Reto replies that he failed to protect her because of his own weakness, and he doesn't want to relive those moments ever again. Back then, he wanted to tell her that having a high capacity of 8 energy is actually a good thing, so he wants Kiara to put it to good use instead of holding herself back. This sends Kiara back to the memory in which she and Reto took shelter from the rain in their usual spot in the park. They were all dressed up for the festival, but since it was cancelled due to rain, they decided to stay there until it stopped raining. Kiara then suddenly mentioned the upcoming Valentine's Day, explaining that a girl gives candy to the boy she likes on that day. Reto got flustered and pretended it was news to him, but Kiara picked up on it and started teasing him for wanting her candy. Reto gave up and admitted he wanted it, but Kiara didn't have any on her. Seeing the disappointment on his face, Kiara promised to buy him some from the festival if the rain stopped. Recalling this, Kiara realizes she was supposed to be a normal girl with a loving boyfriend who'd tap her from the back on weekends, but her dream was stolen by the kissy shoe. This feeling allows her to recharge her H energy. As she begins to collapse, Reto rushes to her aid and she asks him to rescue Chacha, who is still stuck inside the ship. As the girls reunite, Reto meets up with Chacha in the room, but he doesn't come out, which leaves Kiara worried. However, the girls assure her that Reto is fine and she should cheer up because she defeated a lot of kissy shoe today. Soon after, they hear Reto screaming and rush to see that Chacha has transformed into a Kiara look-alike and has already taken a bumpy ride on his monster truck. Kiara then explains to the others that Chacha is a kissy shoe who's on their side, and she reveals they'll need to defeat her mother to win this war. And since they need H energy to do so, she declares she'll be giving them happy endings on a daily basis. The squad then visits Anna, who is shocked to see two Kiara, and assumes Chacha is just Kiara's twin sister. To clear up the misunderstanding, Chacha transforms into her real form and shows that she is in fact a kissy shoe. Anno now wants to put her in quarantine for research, but Kiara asks him not to because Chacha has been in a cell all her life. Anno isn't sure about letting her free, but Kiara reveals that her makeup is the opposite of kissy shoe, so if she stays with them, they'll be able to build up more 8 energy. After he pleads, Anno agrees to let Chacha stay with them in exchange for her cooperation with the rest. The next day, Kiara gets in bed with Chacha and asks her to mimic Reto so she can get moist, but it proves too much to handle, so she forces Chacha to mimic Runba. She then realizes that they've beaten the kissy shoe and don't need the H energy, but Chacha claims the kissy shoe will continue to thrive until the queen is defeated. Later, she runs into Reto in the hallway, and since he's the man who saved her, she decides to repay him by absorbing his body and consciousness so she can find out what gets him going. She then walks into May's room and Reto tells her that May is the most mature and honest member of the group. May gets scared as soon as she sees Chacha, but her mood shifts entirely when Chacha jumps into her arms. As she shoves Chacha's face into her honkadonkus, Reto feels as if he's the one who's been cuddled. This in return boosts up his H energy, but Chacha takes it one step further by sliding into May's milk factory and giving her a tongue twister, turning her into a glitched NPC. She heads to Momo's room next, where she's busy stretching and offers to stretch her Cave of Wonders as well. Momo agrees, but on the condition that Chacha transforms into a busty version of herself. While she's giving her the stretch, Momo suddenly heats up and starts acting strangely. And Chacha realizes it's the side effect of her sweat. Momo gets so hot and bothered that she puts her melons on display and begs Chacha to give her a hands-on special. Next up, they head to Sora's room, who quickly hides her sussy drawings, but Chacha quickly gives her a happy ending and moves on to the next culprit, Kiara. She walks into the changing room and runs into Kiara, who offers to take a bath with her. As they enjoy the bath together, Reto feels as if he's the one in the tub with Kiara. She suddenly heats up and gets out of the tub, collapsing onto the floor the very next second. Chacha then turns into Reto and decides to swipe her V card, but Reto takes back control and stops her, stating that he wants to clap her on his own terms. Just then, his body materializes again, and Chacha realizes that Reto has a firm resolve and a powerful 8 energy. Kiara gets upset thinking he and Chacha teamed up to exploit her and give them a beating even before they could explain themselves. It has been a week since the queen disappeared, but the Kissishus want to continue her mission of eradicating the human race. Unfortunately for them, Kiara is there to thwart their plans. After she defeats the Kissishu, Reto finds her sitting on the road like a crazy person, and Anno later tells him that her brain has short-circuited because of the Kissishu that she fought recently. He claims she'll be back to normal in less than 24 hours, and Reto is left to tend to her for the whole day. Since her mind has reverted some years, she's gone back to her naughty self before she was attacked by the Kissishu. The next day, Reto sprints to school past his friends, and they notice that Kiara is running right after him. Once there, she gets the attention of the whole class by glaring at Reto. During PE class, the instructor asks the students to pair up, and Kiara jumps on to Reto to claim him as a partner. When Reto feels her raw milk packs on his back, he takes her to the infirmary and suggests she covers them up with bandages. However, Kiara starts teasing him and asks why he's so concerned about her. Reto admits that he hates it when other boys stare at her, so Kiara shoves his face into her chug jugs so he can have them all to himself. She even allows him to give her a tongue twister, but Reto panics and covers her up in bandages. Kiara suddenly returns to her usual self and hesitantly asks Reto to untie her so she can attend the class. After Kiara returns, Date asks her to pair up with him instead, but she coldly turns him down and makes fun of his terrible hairline. She then declares that she was acting all day to see how Reto would react, and Yuna embraces her, saying she loves her regardless. Kiara claims she hated every second of it, but suddenly hears a voice telling her to be honest with herself. In the evening, Kiara returns home and Chacha shows her the movie she watched today, complaining about how humans beat around the bush when it comes to clapping. She once again says that humans should be honest with their emotions, making Kiara consider riding Reto's monster truck. Meanwhile, Ano gets a call from the Tokyo branch and tells them they've taken a Kisishu hostage, knowing all too well they aren't ready to accept Kisishu as comrades. The next day, Reto watches the news stating the decline in the number of students and workers showing up for schools and jobs respectively. The absentees claim their dreams were too good that they overslept, and the authorities have been working towards a swift solution. As Reto heads to school, he learns that even his own teacher is absent, and Kiara is the only other person besides him in the class. Later, as the girls take a bath, they discuss how this is happening in every school, and Chacha reveals she knows a Kisishu who has the power to control dreams. She further adds that their queen envisions a peaceful invasion, but since she's been missing, the Kisishu have been out of control. The girls want to put an end to it as soon as possible, but Momo wants to accumulate some H energy first by teasing Kiara. The next day, the squad arrives at the location Ano sent them, and it turns out to be an abandoned factory, perfectly suited for Kisishu to hide. Once they step inside, they are greeted by a voice that introduces itself as Genmuchu. It also recognizes Chacha through her disguise and tells her that she will regret betraying her kind. Momo tells the Kisishu to cut the BS and come face to face, but Genmuchu sends them into a dreamlike state instead. Reto dreams about hanging out with Kiara at their usual spot and is surprised to learn that they're dating now. Kiara then gives him a quiz that ends with them kissing, and Reto realizes that he does in fact love her. Just then, 4 different versions of Kiara show up in front of him, and he's asked to choose the one he loves the most. All the Kiaras pin him down and promise to do whatever he wants, and Reto admits he loves them all equally. Since he's suddenly a harem protagonist now, he wishes to never wake up from this dream and have his lollipop licked every day. Meanwhile, 2 mysterious girls arrive at the factory after sensing the presence of Kisishu. As they walk in, Chacha infiltrates Reto's dream and tells him to wake up because he needs to defeat Genmuchu. Reto refuses because he does everything he wants in this world, but Chacha tells him that this is just a delusion, and if he's into that, she can provide him with far better experiences. Intrigued by her proposal, Reto asks how he can escape this dream, and Chacha asks him to put on the hero gear. Once he puts it on, Genmuchu notices that he's about to wake up but is interrupted by the girls from earlier. Reto finally wakes up and tries to awaken the others, but Chacha tells him that the only way to wake them up is to either interrupt their dream or defeat the Kisishu. Reto then rushes to beat Genmuchu but is confronted by the 2 girls who have used the same gear as him to defeat the culprit. They notice Chacha and are about to attack her, but Reto quickly saves her and reveals that she's one of them. The girls realize he's a fellow hero from the Saitama branch, and one of them knocks him out so they can steal Chacha. However, when Reto appears unfazed by his attacks, she introduces herself as Shiko and her partner as Mona. Shiko challenges him to a duel to see who resists building up H energy the longest, and whoever wins gets to keep Chacha. As Reto agrees to the duel, Shiko cups his face between her feet and then starts using him as a scratch post for her kitty. Mona is confident he'll give in any second, but Chacha is certain he'll pull through given how he's surrounded by shotties all the time. Soon after, the other girls wake up too, and they all realize that Reto isn't with them. In the meantime, Reto is about to cause a crime scene in his pants, but Chacha quickly escapes Mona's grip and bites him. This turns Reto into a beast who quickly teleports behind Miona and gives her a happy ending in a matter of seconds. As he turns his attention to Shiko, she realizes he's the only one who can make her feel those 6 inches. She is taken to a flashback of when a doctor told her that her body is a walking thirst trap, but she could use hero gear to get rid of the sensitivity. However, her body was going to become extremely insensitive as a result. But since her current condition was way worse, she decided to take the treatment because that way she would be able to touch sausages and some grass. Ever since that day, Shiko's sensitivity has been treated, but not even a BBC is able to make her feel a thing. That is until today when Reto inadvertently makes her leak like a broken apartment ceiling. Reto then takes Chacha and leaves, but not before Shiko asks for his name. Just then, Jimichu comes out of the rubble and attacks the girls because they both run out of A energy. However, Reto quickly returns and saves her, followed by the rest of the Saitama squad. After the Kisishu is defeated, Reto introduces Shiko and Mona as heroes from the Tokyo branch, and Momo recognizes Mona because they went to the same school. Reto then asks if they still want to steal Chacha, and Shiko says she'll return for her prey before leaving. Unbeknownst to Reto, she was talking about his monster truck. In the girls' locker room, Kiara is changing her clothes when she admits that she has been hallucinating for a while. She recalls fighting that slimy monster and wonders if its goo is the reason for her condition. Nonetheless, she now sees a little devil version of herself, whom she calls Dark Kiara. She first saw her in the dreams, but now this little devil is flying around and constantly giving her feedback on everything. Fed up with hearing too many facts, she angrily tells the devil to leave her alone, only to realize Reto is standing right in front of her. Reto falls into despair thinking he's caused her pain, but the Dark Kiara pushes her into Reto's arms, making him think she's trying to embrace him. Kiara quickly separates herself and tells him that she's fine. But when Dark Kiara starts messing with Reto, she pushes him away and runs off crying, which leaves the guy confused. Later, Dark Kiara reveals that hallucination can't push her, which means she fell into Reto's arms on her own. Kiara refuses to believe it and throws punches at her, but her classmates think she's shadowboxing. In the evening, Reto is walking home when he runs into Shiko, who apologizes for kicking him last time and asks if Kiara is his girlfriend. When Reto says no, Shiko calls him a loner virgin and asks if he'd like to tap her for a change. Reto stays silent, so she suggests they become friends with benefits who help each other build up H energy. She then quickly adds her contact in his phone and happily runs off, leaving him blushing. She then texts Reto and thanks her for his time while passing by Kiara, who is shocked to see her here again. Later, she sends goon material to Reto, hoping it'd make him want to smack her. But when Reto doesn't respond, she decides to turn into an OnlyFans model like your mom.
Emotional, damn it!
She then clicks another sussy picture but refrains from sending it to Reto. However, she accidentally presses the button and later regrets it, especially when Reto completely ignores her text. The next day, she meets him outside school and gives him a homemade lunchbox to top up his energy so he can give her back shots later. Before she can rizz him up, Kiara steps in and tells her to look somewhere else because she won't let her steal a member of his team. Shiko takes one look at her and realizes Kiara is still a virgin, so she tells her to step aside because Reto is the only one who can make her curl her feet. Later in class, Reto opens the lunchbox and falls in love with her cooking, which makes Kiara feel jealous. Dark Kiara tells her that a new challenger has appeared, so Kiara starts reading cookbooks to please him. However, the Dark Kiara tells him that she can use force and make him submit and tempts her by saying that Reto is taking a bath as they speak. Kiara then puts on a towel and decides to walk into the shower pretending that no one is in there, but as soon as she steps in, she sees Chacha biting Reto. The guy once again taps into his beast mode and pins Kiara down, squeezing her milk bags to give her a happy ending. However, Kiara gets frustrated and knocks him out with a punch to the face. She says she lost all respect for him, but Chacha says it is not his fault. Later, he explains that he loses control of his mind and body when Chacha bites him, and that's exactly what happened against Shiko. Reto then apologizes for whatever he did, and Kiara forgives him on the condition that he never uses beast mode again. The next day, Reto dreams of a mysterious entity telling him to follow his physiological response if he wants to obtain more power. When he wakes up, he finds Chacha ready to swallow his meat stick, but kicks her out of the room because he wants to die a virgin. Later, Mai and Sora inspect an H energy drink when Reto comes running in and takes it with him because he's late to school. Just then, Momo arrives and tells the rest that the HQ has sent a sample of an energy drink that restores H energy, only to learn that Reto yoinked it seconds ago. At school, Reto is about to try it and Shiko suddenly shows up. making him wonder why she's always here. She says he came here for a checkup, but Reto thinks it's because he's her only friend. She gets flustered and quickly snatches the drink from Reto, but when she finds the taste weird, she urges Reto to try it for himself. Reto hesitates because it will be like an indirect kiss, and the moment is ruined when Kiara shows up out of nowhere. Shiko explains she was asking Reto to taste this weird drink, but since Kiara thinks there's more to it, she confidently hands her the drink so she can see for herself. After tasting it, Kiara says it's good and sits beside them. Both the girls start sweating and challenge each other to a karaoke contest, and Reto figures it's because of the drink. At the karaoke place, Reto leaves to get drinks for everyone and the girls decide to continue their contest. Shiko pulls up a device that calculates the H energy and says whoever manages to make Reto finish first will be the winner. When he returns, both girls snuggle up to him and suggest they do something other than karaoke, but Reto is only interested in singing. Shiko then asks him to sing but shoves her face into his mic, making the guy feel flustered. To do her one better, Kiara sticks the mic between her honkadonkas and asks Reto to sing in it. Shiko takes it a step further by sticking it between her twin towers, taking Reto's H energy up to 300%. In the end, they all end up passing out, and by the time they wake up, they realize they were being idiots. As Kiara turns home, she blames the little devil for putting her through this, but she once again reminds her that she cannot control her actions and only knows what she knows. She even suggests they try to get along because she's not her enemy, but Kiara refuses and asks why she showed up in the first place. Dark Kiara says she made a promise the other day which she has forgotten, so she's here to make sure she and Reto end up together. A few days later, the Saitama squad is rewarded with an overnight beach vacation as a reward for their efforts against the Kissy Shoe. Reto believes it's a plan to send them away so the HQ can snatch Chacha away, but Anno assures him that everything is fine. Later, Anno drops them off at the beach and the girls are super excited to be there. While Mai sets up the sitting area, the rest of them run to the water where Kiara finds a sea cucumber in her hand. She initially panics, but Sora believes these ones are harmless, even when it jizzes on her face. Just then, they hear Mai screaming for help and rush to see the whole tent swarmed with dozens of sea cucumbers. Unable to swim, the squad decides to check in at the resort where they are greeted by the receptionist who is overjoyed because she hadn't had guests in a long while. Mai tells her about what happened at the beach, and the lady explains how she keeps getting these pests exterminated, but they keep coming back. Because of that, people have stopped coming to the beach, which has tanked her business. She then reveals she asked for an exterminator just today, and they are surprised by the sudden appearance of Shiko and her squad. Meanwhile, Reto runs into a girlish boy in the halls who recognizes him and says she's a big fan of his. On the other hand, Shiko learns about the whole vacation thing and doesn't understand why they were sent to work instead. They start to think it's part of the plan, but the conversation is interrupted when Reto and the girl return to the main hall. Just then, one of the girls introduces herself as Yona, the coordinator at the Tokyo branch, and the girlish boy is Toma. They head to the beach together, and Mona is unable to smell any Kissy Shoe in the area. Yona checks the report and learns that previous exterminators have encountered Kissy Shoe-like beings, so all they can do for now is wipe out the sea cucumbers. Meanwhile, the Seda squad discusses that the Tokyo branch has had reports of Kissy Shoe sightings at the beach and believes they are using sea cucumbers to drive them away. Since they have no other choice, the squad decides to help only to see the Tokyo squad squeezing the sea cucumbers. Turns out these animals function on how much water they have in their bodies, so all they need to do is squeeze them until the Kissy Shoe show up. Later, Reto tells Toma he's glad to have him here because he's usually always surrounded by girls. Toma says the girls are higher in number because their H energies are stronger than those of men. He worries what they will do if a Kissy Shoe shows up, but Reto says he can take on at least one Kissy Shoe with his current age levels. Amazing by his composure, Toma asks him to become his coach, explaining how Shiko and Mona leave him behind because he's much weaker than them. He didn't think being a hero was possible for a man until he heard of Reto, and he's been idolizing him ever since. Seeing his resolve, Reto agrees to help and asks him to share what kind of 8 energy he has, making Toma feel a little uncomfortable. Before he can spill the beans, they hear the girls screaming and rush to find them swarmed by the sea cucumbers. They also notice a Kissy Shoe nearby who is punishing them for hurting her precious pets. She reveals these sea cucumbers suck off H energy from whoever they latch onto, so it's only a matter of time before the girls are turned into emotionless robots. Since the kissy shoe hasn't spotted them, Reto asks Toma to help the girls while he takes on the kissy shoe. Just then, he notices that he's run out of H energy because some of her pets have latched onto his back. Toma quickly separates the pets, but Reto doesn't have enough energy left and asks Toma to save everyone. Even though he's initially hesitant, Toma regains his confidence after Reto assures him that he'll have his back. Reto then asks how he builds up his H energy, and Toma reveals he does it by being a cuck lord. When he pushes Reto onto the girls, his body starts to heat up at the sight and he wipes the whole area with a single attack. Later, the girls get together at the bath, and as they watch the sunset, they realize their combined efforts saved this place. Meanwhile, Toma thanks Reto for helping him power up, and Reto advises him to put some meat on his bones. The next day, Reto wakes up and notices that Toma's night suit is all messed up. When he tries to fix it, the Shiko and Momo walk in and assume he is trying to switch sides. Later, the receptionist thanks them for saving their resort with a fancy breakfast, and Yona gives the Saitama group a tour of Tokyo. Back at base, Anno is working on Xero suits but falls asleep on his desk. Soon after, Chacha wakes him up because she's hungry, and he decides to hook her up with breakfast. Meanwhile, the Saitama squad heads to Tokyo and is amazed by how big and fancy the city looks. As they gather, Shiko uses her appraisal eye to see everyone's H energy level, and Reto's seems to be off the charts. She then stops all of them and says it's embarrassing to travel in such a large group, so they should split into two. She also adds that members should choose which team to be a part of, and H energy levels should decide the order of picking. Kiara refuses because she's embarrassed to share her H energy levels, and even May suggests they decide with rock, paper, scissors. In the end, Yona and Toma end up on the same team as Reto, Mai, and Sora, which annoys both Shiko and Kiara. The two argue and blame each other for getting separated from Reto, while Momo and Mona believe they become close friends. Momo then asks her where they are headed, and Mona mischievously says somewhere that will make them moist. Meanwhile, the other group heads to an owl-themed cafe, and everyone is amazed because this is the first time they've seen an owl up close. Just then, Toma spots two owls that look like Kiara and Reto, and the latter takes a picture of them for Kiara. Meanwhile, Kiara is frustrated because Mona promised somewhere fun but has taken them to a shop that sells DI meat replacements. Momo suggests she buys some since her kitty has been MIA for a long time, but she gets embarrassed and runs out of the shop. Shiko joins her outside and is amused to learn that someone so innocent is part of the heroes group. She suddenly says that Kiara's relationship with Reto has not developed for nearly a decade, and since she's had her chance, Shiko tells her your time is up and my time is now. After Shiko walks away, Kiara notices that she's left her bag behind. On the other side, the second squad hits up an arcade where the girls engage in a VR FPS game. Meanwhile, Reto is intrigued by a different kind of VR game, and Yona insists they give it a go. Soon after, he finds himself in a classroom with a girl gently looking at him. The game appears to be innocent, but is actually quite sussy, and Yona is hoping Reto will go into high-performance mode and take her for a bumpy ride after he's finished. She gets so excited by the thought that she puts her melons on display for Reto, explaining to herself that she drives H energy by turning herself into a Twitch thought. When Reto inadvertently grabs her milk packs, she suddenly collapses and then begs him not to tell anyone. Reto makes it clear that he likes someone else, and that she should never do it again. Yona is embarrassed because Shiko told her that Reto gives everyone H energy by clapping them. She apologizes and mentions that it's amazing how they managed to defeat Kisishu without doing naughty stuff, making her think that she might be a weirdo. However, Reto assures her that she's not weird and the only thing a true hero should care about is saving people. She thanks him for lifting her spirits and also says she's jealous of the girl who'll get to ride his monster truck. A few hours later, the Saitama squad splits up from Yona and Toma, and while Reto leaves for a nature call, he finds himself lost in an unknown city. Just then, Kiara runs into him and explains that she got separated from the rest in a rush. They both suggest they walk home together at the same time, and as they sit on the train, they keep thinking about what Yona and Shiko said respectively. Reto starts up a conversation by telling her about the Owl Cafe and shows her the picture he took earlier. Reto then asks where she went and what's in the bag she's holding, but Kiara gets defensive and says the bag doesn't even belong to her. Just then, they see their stop coming and Kiara quickly gets off the train, dropping her hairpin in the process. Reto quickly rushes to the office to see if they can get it back for her, and while Kiara is initially unfazed, something tells her that the hairpin is really important to her. Later, they finally find the hairpin, but all the trains and buses are gone by that time, so Kiara suggests they call Ano. As they walk together, Reto is about to hold hands with Kiara, but she suddenly asks him if he remembers anything about this hairpin. Reto nervously tells her it must not be that important since she forgot about it, but she gently grabs his hand and begs him to tell her. Reto finally breaks and reveals he was the one who gave her that hairpin as a token of his love for her. Back then, Reto was walking to school when Kiara suddenly appeared and showed him that she was going free roam with her melons. Reto got nervous and ran off, but he was secretly hiding a gift for her birthday. Later, Kiara found a letter in her locker and went to see Reto after school, and the letter was from Reto asking her to marry him. In reality, it was a prank from his side because he wanted to get back at her, but he was shocked when Kiara started getting red and accepted his proposal. Thinking it was part of her plan, he played along and gave her a present, which happened to be the hairpin she had worn every day since that day. At present, Kiara asks why he calls it a proposal when it is all fake, but Reto says it's because of the way she reacted. And then, after the kissy shoe incident, she became super mean towards him, and Reto realized she must have lost her memories in the attack. However, now she knows the truth and panics after realizing that she and Reto have been engaged for years. Before she can process the news, they hear something in the bushes behind them and get their guards up. Kiara gets scared and leans onto Reto thinking it's a kissy shoe, but it turns out to be just a raccoon, much to her relief. The raccoon tips off the bag she was holding and Reto is terrified to see what's inside. He pretends he hasn't seen a thing, but Kiara starts panicking and explains it belongs to Shiko. Reto thinks she's capping and says he understands her need for sausage, but Kiara gets increasingly frustrated until she releases H energy and gets exposed. Reto offers her his jacket, but Kiara notices someone walking by and quickly pins him down behind the bench, with his face motorboating her chug jugs. After the girl is gone, Kiara realizes how she's been hiding from her true self and decides to give him a formal answer to his proposal. Reto says it was a stupid mistake and she doesn't need to, but Kiara suggests they go back to how they once were after they've exterminated all the kissy shoe from this world. However, he is not allowed to fall for another girl until they settle things between them, making him realize he might actually have a chance of getting that sloppy toppy. Elsewhere, the Queen of Kissy Shoe finally attains a new body and is ready to take down the heroes. The next day, Reto and Kiara return home in a cab, and Chacha assumes they were at Pound Town all night long. She then reveals they're all going to Ano's place tonight, but refuses to tell them why, which makes Reto suspicious because Ano isn't picking up his phone either. Later that day, Reto fights Kissy Shoe and knocks her down, but before she disappears, she injects Reto with her stinger. Just then, his sausage turns into a weasel and runs away, and Chacha explains that the Kissy Shoe he defeated is the one who caused this. After he confirms that his Excalibur is indeed gone, he learns he has to catch it quickly, or he'll never get any shotties on his ding-dong like all of you. As he runs after it, the Queen in her new body is somehow running for governor and vows to make America great again. Eventually, Reto manages to catch his sausage but notices that he's turned into a full-blown chick. Amid his shock, he lets the weasel loose again and runs into May when he goes after it. May doesn't recognize him and asks for his name, so he introduces himself as Reto's younger sister. Just then, his melons grow in size, and he starts feeling a weird sensation in his newly developed kitty, so he runs off to the bathroom before he causes a crime scene in the halls. Meanwhile, Kiara and Momo are giving Rumba a bath when they suddenly notice Reto's sausage on the loose. Just then, Reto arrives in the bathroom and May introduces him as Reto's sister Hiro. Kiara is sussed out because Hiro was as flat as a pancake when she last saw her but gets distracted when Rumba and the weasel start fighting. She then accidentally spills water all over the place, and both she and Momo get drenched. The girls then casually take off their shirts thinking Reto is Hiro and drag him into the bathtub with them. Momo then asks if he likes anyone, and Kiara wonders if Reto also has someone he loves. She then suddenly gets defensive saying she let her words slip out, but Reto, still playing as Hiro, assures her that Reto's feelings haven't changed. As Momo squeezes the juice out of Reto's melons, she notices the weasel and starts rubbing it with soap and a washcloth. Reto naturally feels like he's getting a hands-on special and tries to leave, only to slip and fall. The squirrel then pops right back into its original place, turning Reto back to his male form. Momo is confused as to why he's here, and Kiara starts to blush realizing he basically told her he still loves her. Meanwhile, Sora watches the news of Anno's arrest on TV and calls everyone to the lounge. While the others discuss the arrest, Chacha gives a hard drive to Reto because Anno told her to give it to him if anything happens. Reto uploads the code in the drive to his hero gear, and when he activates it, his body is covered with a new costume. Not only does this suit amplify the H energy, but it also stays intact when they use their attacks, which means no more fan servicing. The girls are excited to try it on, but Reto is certain his uncle was arrested because of this invention. He then gets a call from the HQ and later informs the group that even the higher-ups don't know the details of the arrest. On top of that, the squad is in danger, so they are told to take their gear and go to their homes, which in other words means the Saitama Hero Squad is disbanded. A week later, Reto is chilling on the sofa and his sister Hiro is still not used to having him over. As he walks to school, he's joined by Kiara, who is relieved they can live normal lives at least for a while. Seeing the lack of enthusiasm in Reto, she takes away his gear and promises to return it once he starts enjoying his school life. Later in class, Kiara's friend asks her for advice on how to invite Dotted to a fireworks festival, and she agrees to help since that will allow her to enjoy a normal school life side quest. Later, Kiara tells Reto to come to the festival with her this weekend, and even though he initially agrees, he fails to make it in time because of work. As the lovebirds enjoy a good time and play games, Kiara feels alone and hopes Reto makes it before the fireworks go off. As she leaves for the restroom, she notices a kissy shoe in the crowd, but then realizes it's just a man wearing a mask. As she reaches the toilet, she sees a long line and decides to conduct her business by the river. That's when she notices Reto resting beside a tree, covered in dozens of bruises. He explains he ran into a kissy shoe on the way and got beat up when he tried to fight it without his gear. Kiara apologizes thinking it's her fault, but Reto is solely focused on finding that kissy shoe before it harms the crowd. Reto then suddenly realizes that the kissy shoe will attack where the fireworks are held, and his theory comes true when they find a guy knocked out by the river. Turns out the kissy shoe is sick of couples getting together to see fireworks, so instead of giving them a show, it wants to blow them up with all that gunpowder. Kiara tells Reto to stay put because they're disbanded and shouldn't fight, but Reto tells her that he became a hero just to take revenge for how they traumatized her. As he kept fighting, he realized he was protecting other people's love, and if he couldn't do that anymore, how could he protect his own love for her? Seeing his resolve, Kiara seeks Dark Kiara's help to increase her H energy, kisses Reto on the cheek, and then turns into a superhero with a brand new costume. She then defeats the kissy shoe and starts the fireworks, allowing everyone to enjoy the show. She also returns Reto's hero gear, and they're soon joined by the rest of the squad who came here tracking the kissy shoe that was defeated by Kiara. They explain that while their squad was disbanded, they still continued to perform their duties which brought them together again. Later, Chacha notices the Queen's poster on the wall, depicting her as the new governor, and gets a feeling that she's seen her somewhere before. Reto suspects that Kissy Shu has infiltrated the government and has arrested Anno to stop the superheroes, and the only way to find the truth is to meet the new governor in person. The next day, after the Queen leaves in her car, the Saitama squad asks a taxi driver to follow her. Before that, they were all gathered in a cafe and learned Chacha has the power to distinguish between a human and a Kissy Shu. However, having her expose the governor in broad daylight would have caused panic, so they agreed to meet her in private. While in the car, while the others doze off, Chacha tells Reto she feels useless because they're still taking care of her even though they're no longer an official group. Reto assures her that she is useful to them and is an essential part of their group. By the evening, they arrive at the governor's place and wonder how to approach her until Chacha suggests she goes alone in disguise. Mai deems it too dangerous, but Chacha is hellbent on giving them something back after they gave her a new life and a cozy home. Seeing her resolve, they agree to let her go and promise to rescue her if things spiral out of control. The plan is for Chacha to go and see if the governor is a human or Kissy Shu, and in the latter case, the whole squad will go in after Chacha. She disguises herself as a delivery girl and rings the doorbell, and the governor opens the door in a towel. She then touches Chacha's hand and casts some spell, causing her to drop the delivery box and mindlessly walk into the house. The squad notices this and quickly runs in to rescue her, only to find the governor happily embracing her long-lost daughter. Hearing this, the squad concludes that she is in fact the Queen of Kissy Shu who has put a mind-controlling magic on Chacha. Reto charges up and attacks the Queen, but casually walks away and locks them inside the room. Their H energies are blocked by the room's walls, and while they figure out a way to escape, the queen has dinner with her daughter. However, she notes that Chacha isn't eating and assumes she needs to feed on H energy. She tells her not to worry because she has locked up humans with the strongest H energies who can feed them for many years to come. Hearing this, Chacha suddenly wakes up from the trance and tells the queen that she won't let her harm her friends. Meanwhile, the squad fails to escape the room until Momo suggests a method that is banned at the Toma branch. Reto frantically says he won't do it, but Kiara says he must do whatever it takes in an emergency. She then asks Momo what they have to do, and she says they all need to get clapped by Reto at the same time. While Kiara protests against it, May agrees to the deed because that's the only way to save Chacha. However, Kiara suggests they turn off the lights and do it blindly, and everyone agrees to it. As Reto roams around in the dark room, Momo suddenly grabs him from the back, but he somehow slips past her, leaving her to satisfy May. He then runs into Sora and accidentally shoves his face into her uncharted lands. Meanwhile, Kiara is sitting alone like a virgin loser, and Dark Kiara tells her to move or Reto might end up clapping the other chicks. Kiara ignores her and decides to play solo, but Reto suddenly joins her and they fall right between the two beds, locked into each other. As they struggle to separate from each other, Chacha makes it to the halls but is stopped by the queen, who threatens to lock her up again. She asks which side Chacha is on, and Chacha says she is an official member of the Saitama Heroes. Just then, the squad all get a happy ending together and transform, breaking out of the room through sheer force. Chacha rushes back to May and explains that she was under mind control, and they assure her that she is safe now. As they begin fighting the queen, she admits she can't fight them all at once and summons an ancient octopus, Kisishu, to trap them while she skedaddles out of the house. With only Reto and Kiara free, the girls tell them to go on without them and stop the queen from causing destruction in the city. They then attack the Kisishu with H energy attacks, but it only ends up making it even stronger. With no other choice, Chacha bites them all to activate their beast mode, and with an overwhelming amount of H energy accumulated, the Kisishu explodes into smithereens. Meanwhile, Reto apologizes to Kiara for what happened in the room, but she gets upset and smacks him in the face. As she proceeds alone, she runs into the queen, who suddenly bites her neck and explains that she can control any being with her powers. All of a sudden, Dark Kiara takes over Kiara's body and shoves her melons into Reto's face when he arrives. As Kiara's H energy keeps getting drained, Reto suddenly uses the power of love to give a monologue which allows Kiara to regain control of her body. The two then sync up their powers to face the queen, which reminds Reto of the day they first fought together. Their attack is so strong that it not only blows away the queen, but also destroys their new suit. Reto then recalls Kiara, saying they can continue their story once all the Kisishu are defeated, and asks if he'd like to get clapped. However, Kiara gets flustered and buys more time to face her emotions by reminding him that there are many Kisishu still wandering their planet. That's it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to see more recaps like this. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.